The note was only 7 words long, but it would destroy 10 years of regret. On a cold Thursday evening in downtown Chicago, the city glowed beneath a blanket of lights and glass towers while thousands of people hurried home after another long day. Inside one of the city's most exclusive steakhouses, however, the atmosphere felt entirely different. Soft jazz floated through the air. Crystal glasses reflected warm golden light. Executives, attorneys, investors, and celebrities occupied nearly every table. It was the kind of restaurant where reservations were made weeks in advance, and where one dinner could cost more than some people earned in a month. At precisely 7:12 p.m., Ethan Walker stepped through the front entrance. The 47-year-old billionaire chief executive officer moved with the confidence of a man accustomed to controlling every room he entered. His tailored navy suit fit perfectly. His silver watch cost more than most luxury cars. Employees greeted him by name before he even reached the hostess stand. Ethan acknowledged them with a brief nod. Polite, efficient, distracted. The truth was that Ethan barely noticed his surroundings anymore. Success had a way of turning extraordinary experiences into ordinary routines. Another steakhouse, another business dinner, another evening filled with meetings, decisions, and numbers. He followed the hostess to a private corner table overlooking Michigan Avenue. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, traffic lights shimmered across rain-slick streets. Ethan loosened his tie slightly and opened his phone. Dozens of unread messages immediately appeared. Board members, investors, attorneys, assistants. The endless demands of a billion-dollar company never stopped. A few moments later, Monica Brooks approached the table carrying a leather menu. At 31 years old, Monica had worked at the restaurant long enough to recognize powerful people without being impressed by them. She wore a crisp black uniform and a clean apron. Her posture was professional. Her smile was warm but genuine. "Good evening, sir," she said. "May I start you with something to drink?" Ethan glanced up briefly. "Sparkling water." "Of course." Monica returned minutes later with the water and took his order. Ethan barely looked at the menu. "Ribeye? Medium rare." "Excellent choice. And make it quick, please." Monica nodded. "I will do my best." As she turned away, Ethan's phone vibrated again. Another message. Another problem requiring immediate attention. He answered emails while waiting. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. Around him, conversations rose and fell like distant waves. Laughter drifted from nearby tables. Wine glasses clinked softly. Yet Ethan remained trapped inside his own world of deadlines and obligations. He did not notice Monica watching him from across the dining room. Earlier, when processing his payment information for the reservation, she had seen his name, Ethan Walker. The moment she read it, an old memory had surfaced. At first she thought it was impossible. Then she remembered a photograph. A hospital room. A promise made years ago. Since that moment, she had been fighting a growing sense of disbelief. It could not really be him, could it? Back in the kitchen service area, Monica opened a small compartment inside her purse. Hidden beneath a few personal items rested a folded piece of paper that had traveled with her for nearly a decade. The edges had become worn with time. She stared at it for several seconds. Her heartbeat quickened. After all these years, she had never expected the name on that paper to appear in front of her. Not here. Not tonight. Not ever. One of the cooks called her name. Monica carefully returned the paper to her purse and collected Ethan's order. The ribeye arrived perfectly prepared. Steam rose gently from the plate. The aroma filled the air. Monica carried it through the dining room. When she reached Ethan's table, she paused for only a moment. Then, with careful precision, she slipped a folded note beneath the edge of his linen napkin before setting down the steak. Ethan did not notice. "Enjoy your meal, sir," Monica said. "Thank you." She walked away. For several minutes, nothing happened. Ethan continued checking messages while absent-mindedly cutting into the steak. Then his hand brushed against something beneath the napkin. He frowned. Confused, he lifted the folded paper. There was no signature. No explanation. Just 7 handwritten words. Ethan read them once. Then again. The color slowly drained from his face. The bustling restaurant seemed to disappear around him, because the note contained a name he had not seen in 10 years. And a message that should have been impossible. "Your mother wanted you to see this." Ethan Walker stared at the folded note while the noise of the restaurant faded into a distant blur. For several seconds, he did not move. The fork remained suspended in his hand. The steak cooled untouched on the plate. Around him, conversations continued. Glasses clinked. Waiters moved between tables. Soft jazz drifted through the dining room. Yet none of it seemed real anymore. His eyes remained locked on the 7 words written across the paper. Your mother wanted you to see this. Ethan read the sentence a 3rd time, then a 4th. The handwriting was unfamiliar. The message was impossible. His mother had been gone for 10 years. Slowly, he lowered the note onto the table. His chest felt unusually tight. Ethan was not a man easily shaken. Billion-dollar negotiations did not rattle him. Market crashes did not rattle him. Public criticism did not rattle him. Yet a single sentence written on a folded piece of paper had done exactly that. He looked around the restaurant. The waitress. Where was she? Across the dining room, Monica Brooks was helping another table. She appeared completely calm, professional, ordinary. But Ethan could no longer see her that way. Not after the note. Not after the name that had suddenly reopened a part of his life he rarely allowed himself to think about. His mother, Eleanor Walker. The memory arrived unexpectedly. Her laugh, her voice, the way she always called him Ethan James whenever she wanted his full attention. For years he had buried those memories beneath meetings, deadlines, acquisitions, and quarterly reports. Work had become easier than grief. Much easier. Ethan stood from the table so abruptly that several nearby guests glanced in his direction. He barely noticed. His eyes searched the room until they found Monica again. She was collecting empty glasses near the bar area. Ethan folded the note and slipped it into his jacket pocket. Then he walked toward her. Monica noticed him approaching almost immediately. For a brief moment, concern flashed across her face. Then it disappeared beneath the calm expression she had practiced for years. Ethan stopped a few feet away. Excuse me. Monica turned toward him. Yes, sir. Ethan studied her carefully. Did you write this? He removed the note from his pocket and unfolded it. Monica's eyes moved to the paper. She nodded once. Yes. Ethan stared at her. How do you know my mother's name? Monica remained silent for several seconds. Not because she was avoiding the question, because she knew the answer would change everything. That is a long story, she said softly. Then tell me. The words came out sharper than Ethan intended. Monica glanced around the restaurant. Several guests were beginning to notice the conversation. This may not be the best place. Ethan lowered his voice. Who are you? Monica looked directly at him. There was no fear in her eyes. No hesitation. Only something that resembled compassion. Someone your mother trusted. Ethan felt his pulse quicken. That is impossible. I understand why you think that. You do not understand anything. The response escaped before he could stop it. Monica did not react. If anything, her expression softened. Mr. Walker, she said quietly, when was the last time you thought about your mother? The question hit harder than Ethan expected. He opened his mouth to answer and realized he could not. Not honestly. He thought about her birthday occasionally. Certain holidays. Rare moments when an old photograph appeared while cleaning a drawer. But truly think about her. It had been years. Monica seemed to recognize the answer without hearing it. She talked about you constantly, Monica said. Ethan froze. What? She was proud of you. You knew her? Monica took a slow breath. Yes. Ethan's heart pounded. The restaurant suddenly felt too warm, too small, too crowded. 10 years. For 10 years he had believed there were no more stories left to hear about his mother. No unanswered questions. No missing pieces. Yet a stranger wearing a black apron was standing in front of him claiming she had known her. Monica reached into the pocket of her apron. Ethan's eyes followed the movement. Slowly, carefully, she removed something small and rectangular wrapped inside an old cloth. She looked down at it for a moment before raising her eyes back to his. Mr. Walker, she said quietly, there is something your mother asked me to give you. Ethan Walker stared at the cloth-wrapped object in Monica Brooks's hands as though it might disappear if he blinked. The sounds of the restaurant faded even further into the background. Every instinct told him to demand answers immediately. Yet something in Monica's expression stopped him. She was not trying to impress him. She was not seeking attention. She looked like someone carrying a responsibility she had held for a very long time. Slowly, Monica unfolded the worn cloth. Inside rested a small wooden box no larger than a paperback book. The wood showed signs of age. Tiny scratches marked the surface. One corner had been repaired years earlier. Ethan felt an unexpected chill move through him. The box looked familiar, not because he remembered seeing it recently, but because it belonged to a part of his life he had spent years trying not to revisit. Monica held it carefully with both hands. "Your mother gave this to me 10 years ago," she said quietly. Ethan's eyes never left the box. "That is impossible." Monica nodded gently. "I know how it sounds. Where did you meet her?" Monica glanced toward an empty private booth near the rear of the restaurant. "Would you sit with me for a few minutes?" Ethan hesitated. Every meeting on his calendar suddenly felt meaningless. Every email could wait. Whatever this was had already shattered the routine of his evening. He followed Monica to the quiet booth. The city lights shimmered through nearby windows. Rain traced slow paths across the glass. Once seated, Monica placed the box on the table between them. Neither touched it. For several moments, silence filled the space. Finally, Monica spoke. 10 years ago, I was 21 years old. I had just moved to Chicago. I was working 2 jobs and taking community college classes whenever I could afford them. Ethan listened without interrupting. One evening, I volunteered at a hospital community program. Monica looked down briefly. "That is where I met your mother." Ethan's heart tightened. "She was in a hospital?" Monica nodded. "She was receiving treatment. But that is not what I remember most." Ethan leaned forward slightly. "Then what do you remember?" A faint smile appeared on Monica's face. "I remember her kindness." The answer surprised him. Monica continued. "Most people in difficult situations focus on themselves. Your mother focused on everyone else. She remembered names. She encouraged strangers. She asked questions about people she barely knew." Ethan lowered his eyes. The description sounded exactly like Eleanor Walker. Monica continued speaking. "I was exhausted back then. I was worried about money. I was behind on tuition. I thought nobody noticed." Her fingers rested lightly on the wooden box. "Your mother noticed." Ethan swallowed hard. "What happened?" Monica smiled softly at the memory. "She spent nearly an hour talking to me one evening. We discussed school, goals, and life. Before I left, she told me something I never forgot." Ethan felt himself leaning closer. "What?" "She said that difficult seasons do not last forever, but the choices we make during them stay with us." Ethan closed his eyes briefly. That sounded exactly like something his mother would say. Monica took a slow breath. "Over the following months, we became friends." Ethan opened his eyes. "Friends?" Monica nodded. "Unlikely friends. But yes." The idea felt surreal. For 10 years, he had believed his mother's story ended with her passing. Yet here sat a woman revealing an entire chapter he never knew existed. Then Monica's expression became more serious. "A few weeks before she passed away, she gave me this box." Ethan's gaze immediately returned to it. "Why?" Monica hesitated. "Because she was worried." Ethan frowned. "Worried about what?" Monica looked directly into his eyes. "About you." The answer struck him harder than he expected. "Me? She loved you more than anyone in the world." Ethan looked away. Guilt stirred somewhere deep inside him. Monica continued gently. "She told me that if life ever placed us in the same room, I should give you this." Ethan stared at the box. 10 years. A decade of unanswered questions sat inches from his hands. Then Monica carefully slid it across the table. "Mr. Walker," she whispered, "I think it is finally time for you to see what is inside." Ethan Walker looked at the wooden box as though it contained a piece of his past he was not prepared to face. For several long seconds, neither he nor Monica Brooks spoke. Outside the restaurant windows, rain continued sliding down the glass while the lights of Chicago shimmered across the wet streets below. Finally, Ethan reached forward. His fingers touched the worn wood carefully. The surface felt smooth in some places and rough in others. Years of handling had left their mark. He slowly lifted the lid. Inside, several items rested neatly together. At the very top lay an old photograph. Ethan froze the moment he saw it. The picture showed his mother standing beside a young Monica nearly 10 years earlier. Both women were smiling. Eleanor Walker looked happy. Not the polite smile she often used at public events. A genuine smile. The kind that reached her eyes. Ethan stared at the image for several moments. "This was real," he whispered. Monica nodded. "Very real." Beneath the photograph sat a small stack of envelopes tied together with a faded blue ribbon. Ethan carefully removed them. The handwriting on the front immediately caught his attention. He knew that handwriting. He had seen it on birthday cards throughout his childhood, on notes left beside his breakfast before school, on letters she mailed during his college years. His mother's handwriting. His chest tightened. What are these? Monica's voice remained gentle. Letters. Ethan looked up. For me? Monica nodded. Every one of them. Confusion crossed his face. I never received these. I know. Ethan slowly untied the ribbon. There were 7 envelopes altogether. Each carried a different date. The earliest was from nearly 11 years ago. The latest was written only weeks before his mother's death. Ethan stared at them in disbelief. Why did she never send them? Monica hesitated. She did not think you were ready to read them. Ethan frowned. What does that mean? Monica folded her hands on the table. During our conversations, your mother often spoke about you. She admired your ambition. She was proud of everything you accomplished. Ethan swallowed hard. But Monica smiled sadly. She worried that success was becoming the only thing you could see. The words landed with uncomfortable accuracy. Ethan lowered his eyes. Back then, he had been building his company at a relentless pace. Every hour belonged to the business. Every day centered around growth. He remembered postponing visits, delaying phone calls, promising himself he would spend more time with his mother once things settled down. Things never settled down. Monica pointed toward the envelopes. She hoped one day you would slow down long enough to hear what she wanted to say. Ethan carefully opened the first letter. The paper inside had yellowed slightly with age. He unfolded it and immediately recognized the opening line. Dear Ethan James. His mother always used both names when writing something important. His eyes moved slowly across the page. The letter was not about illness. It was not about regret. It was about memories, family vacations, baseball games, long conversations from years earlier, small moments Ethan had almost forgotten. A smile appeared briefly before fading again. The next letter was different. It contained advice, reflections, questions about happiness, questions Ethan realized he had never taken time to ask himself. Minutes passed as he quietly read. The restaurant around him continued operating, but he barely noticed. Monica remained silent, allowing him space. Then Ethan reached the final envelope in the stack. Unlike the others, this one had a short note written across the front. His hands trembled slightly as he read it. Open only when you are finally ready to listen. Ethan stared at the words. A strange mixture of curiosity and fear settled over him. Slowly, he looked back at Monica. What is inside this one? Monica's expression softened. That, she said quietly, is the letter your mother asked me to protect until the day we met. The final envelope remained unopened between Ethan Walker and Monica Brooks, while the lights of Chicago shimmered beyond the rain-covered windows. Ethan could have opened it immediately. Every part of him wanted to. Yet something held him back. Perhaps it was fear. Perhaps it was the growing realization that the answers he had spent 10 years avoiding were finally sitting in front of him. He rested his hand on the envelope, but did not break the seal. Before I read this, he said quietly, tell me something. Monica nodded. What would you like to know? Ethan looked directly at her. Why did my mother trust you with something this important? Monica lowered her eyes for a moment as memories returned. Because she believed people cross paths for a reason. Ethan waited. Monica continued. During those months at the hospital, your mother helped a lot of people. But she did not help them with money. She helped them feel seen. Ethan listened carefully. One night, I was sitting alone in a waiting area after a double shift. I was exhausted. I was behind on rent. I was thinking about dropping out of school. A faint smile appeared on her face. Your mother sat beside me and asked why I looked so defeated. Ethan could almost picture it. Eleanor Walker had always noticed things others missed. I told her I was tired of struggling. I told her it felt like nobody cared whether I succeeded or failed. Monica's voice softened. She looked at me and said something I never forgot. Ethan leaned forward. What? Monica smiled. She said that the world often rewards people long after they deserve encouragement, which is why we should never wait to encourage someone today. Ethan felt a lump forming in his throat. That sounded exactly like his mother. After that, she checked on me every week. Monica glanced at the wooden box. When I passed my classes, she celebrated. When I received a scholarship, she cried. Not because she had to, because she genuinely cared. Ethan stared at the table. Each story revealed another side of his mother he had forgotten during years consumed by business. Monica continued. Toward the end, she spoke about you often. Ethan closed his eyes briefly. What did she say? Monica answered immediately. That you were brilliant. That you worked harder than anyone she had ever known. That one day you would build something extraordinary. Ethan smiled sadly. At least she was right about that. Monica nodded. Yes, but there was something else. Ethan looked up. What? She worried that success was costing you things you could never buy back. Silence settled between them. Ethan did not argue, because deep down, he knew she was right. Over the past decade, his company had grown beyond anything he imagined. He owned homes in 3 states. He traveled on private aircraft. Financial magazines called him visionary. Yet he had missed birthdays, missed anniversaries, missed ordinary moments that never returned. Monica reached into the box and carefully removed a second photograph. She slid it across the table. Ethan picked it up. The image showed his mother sitting outside the hospital with Monica on a sunny afternoon. Both women were laughing. On the back, written in Eleanor's handwriting, were 6 simple words. Never forget what matters most. Ethan stared at the message. His vision blurred slightly. For the first time all evening, he stopped trying to control his emotions. Monica watched quietly. There is one more thing, she said. Ethan looked up. What? Monica hesitated. A few days before she passed away, your mother made me promise something. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. What kind of promise? Monica glanced toward the unopened envelope. She said there would come a day when you finally slowed down long enough to listen. Ethan stared at the envelope once again. Monica's voice became almost a whisper. And she told me that when that day arrived, the final letter would explain everything. The unopened envelope sat between Ethan Walker and Monica Brooks like a bridge connecting 2 different versions of the same man. One version had spent the last decade chasing success with relentless determination. The other was beginning to emerge tonight, forced to confront memories he had buried beneath schedules, contracts, and quarterly reports. Ethan picked up the final letter. The paper felt surprisingly heavy, not because of its weight, but because of everything it represented. Across the restaurant, life continued as normal. Guests enjoyed their dinners. Servers carried trays between tables. The piano player near the lounge area moved gently through another jazz standard. Yet for Ethan, time seemed suspended. Monica remained silent. She understood that some moments belonged to the person experiencing them. Finally, Ethan broke the seal. The sound was soft, almost insignificant, yet it felt louder than anything else in the room. He unfolded the letter carefully. Immediately, he recognized his mother's handwriting. The sight alone caused his chest to tighten. Dear Ethan James. He stopped reading for a moment. The familiar opening brought back memories he had not visited in years. Birthday cards, graduation notes, small messages tucked into his lunchbox when he was a child. Eleanor Walker always used both names when she wanted her words to matter. Ethan continued, My son, if you are reading this, it means life finally gave you a reason to slow down. The sentence hit him harder than expected. He kept reading. I hope that reason is not pain. I hope it is wisdom. But either way, I am grateful you stopped long enough to listen. Ethan swallowed. The restaurant seemed quieter now. My greatest wish was never for you to become rich. It was never for you to become famous. My greatest wish was for you to build a life you would actually have time to enjoy. Ethan lowered the letter slightly. A sharp feeling of regret moved through him. How many family dinners had he missed? How many calls had gone unanswered because he was in another meeting? How many moments had he postponed until later? His mother seemed to answer the question from 10 years away. Success is a wonderful servant, Ethan, but it becomes a terrible master when it steals the people you love. Ethan stared at the words. Across the table, Monica watched quietly. She could see the changes happening behind his eyes. The defenses were beginning to crack. The carefully constructed walls were finally showing openings. Ethan continued reading. I know you believe. There will always be more time. I believed that once too. Most people do. Then one day they discover that the moments they postponed became the moments they lost. A tear formed in the corner of Ethan's eye. He quickly looked away, embarrassed by the emotion. Monica pretended not to notice. His mother had one final page. The handwriting grew slightly less steady near the bottom. If life has blessed you with success, use it well. Build companies. Create opportunities. Dream boldly. But never forget that the people who love you are not waiting for your achievements. They are waiting for you. Ethan stopped. For several seconds, he could not continue. The words blurred. He took a slow breath and read the final lines. One day you will understand that love measures life differently than business does. Love does not count profits. Love counts presence. And if this letter has reached you, then perhaps you still have time. Ethan lowered the paper. The silence between him and Monica felt profound. Outside, the rain had finally stopped. The city lights reflected across the glass like thousands of distant stars. For the first time in many years, Ethan was not thinking about his company. He was thinking about everyone he had left waiting while he chased success. And deep inside, he realized the letter had not been written to remind him of the past. It had been written to change what he did next. For several minutes after finishing the letter, Ethan Walker remained completely still. The paper rested in his hands while the words continued echoing through his mind. The people who love you are not waiting for your achievements. They are waiting for you. He had spent years believing success would eventually create the freedom to focus on everything else. First, the company would grow. Then he would make time for family. First, the next acquisition. Then the next expansion. Then the next milestone. Somehow, the list never ended. Monica Brooks quietly sipped a glass of water and allowed the silence to remain. She understood that some lessons required room to settle. Eventually, Ethan folded the letter carefully and returned it to the envelope. His eyes drifted toward the city skyline, beyond the restaurant windows. "I thought I was honoring her," he said softly. Monica looked up. "Your mother?" Ethan nodded. "Everything I built. Every late night. Every sacrifice. I always told myself she would have wanted this." Monica considered his words before answering. "She was proud of what you accomplished." Ethan smiled sadly. "That is what makes this harder." He looked back at the envelope. "Because she was proud of me, and I still missed the point." Monica said nothing. She did not need to. Ethan continued. "When she became sick, I was traveling constantly. Investors, conferences, expansion meetings." He laughed quietly, but there was no humor in it. "I kept saying I would visit more once things slowed down." His gaze lowered. They never slowed down. Outside, a police siren passed somewhere in the distance. The sound faded quickly into the night. Ethan rubbed his forehead. "You know what is strange?" Monica waited. "I remember every major business deal from that period. Every negotiation. Every financial number." His voice became quieter. "But there are entire weeks with my mother that I cannot remember at all." The realization seemed to hurt more than anything else. Monica leaned forward slightly. "Regret can be heavy." Ethan nodded. "It is." Then Monica offered a gentle smile. "But regret can also be useful." Ethan looked at her. "Useful? Only if it changes what happens next." The words reminded him of something his mother might have said. Ethan stared at the wooden box. "She really believed I would receive this one day." Monica nodded. "Without question. Even after all those years. Especially after all those years." Ethan sat quietly. Then a thought occurred to him. "There is something I do not understand." Monica raised an eyebrow. "What is that? Why keep waiting?" Ethan asked. "You could have contacted me years ago. You knew who I was." Monica smiled softly. "Your mother gave very specific instructions." Ethan looked surprised. "Instructions?" "She told me not to find you." Ethan frowned. "Why?" Monica reached into the box and removed a small folded card Ethan had not noticed before. On the back was a date written in Eleanor Walker's handwriting. Monica handed it to him. "Because she believed some lessons cannot be delivered. They have to be discovered." Ethan stared at the date. It was today's date. The exact day, the exact month. Even the year matched. His eyes widened. "How is that possible?" Monica smiled. "I asked her the same question." Ethan looked up immediately. "What did she say?" Monica's expression became emotional for the first time all evening. She said that one day her son would finally become successful enough to realize success was not what he needed most. Ethan lowered his eyes. The words struck with astonishing accuracy. Then Monica took a slow breath. "There is one thing I have not told you yet." Ethan looked up again. "What?" Monica hesitated for a moment before answering. "The night before your mother gave me the box, she left something else behind." Monica Brooks held Ethan Walker's gaze for a moment before reaching back into the wooden box. The restaurant seemed quieter than ever. Even the distant conversations felt muted beneath the weight of the evening. Carefully, she removed a small sealed envelope that looked older than the others. Unlike the letters Ethan had already read, this one contained only a single sheet of paper folded into thirds. "She asked me to keep this separate," Monica said softly. Ethan accepted it without speaking. His hands were steadier now, but his heart was not. He unfolded the paper and immediately recognized his mother's handwriting once again. The message was short. much shorter than the letters. Yet somehow it felt even more personal. Ethan James, if Monica is giving you this, then she has already fulfilled a promise that most people would have forgotten years ago. Before you thank her, understand something. The greatest gift she gave me was not her time. It was her kindness. Ethan paused. His eyes moved lower. There was more. A few months before we met, Monica was struggling in ways she never fully admitted. She showed up anyway. She kept helping people anyway. She kept believing anyway. The world notices that kind of character, even when success does not. Ethan glanced up at Monica. She looked away slightly, uncomfortable being the subject of attention. He continued reading. If you want to honor me, do not focus on what you lost. Focus on what you still have. Too many people spend their lives staring backward. Do not become one of them. Ethan felt the words settle deep inside him. For hours he had been thinking about missed opportunities, missed visits, and missed conversations. Yet his mother was pointing him somewhere else. Forward. The final lines were written larger than the rest. Call your sister. Ethan froze. Monica immediately noticed the change in his expression. Your sister? She asked gently. Ethan stared at the page. We have not spoken in almost 3 years. Monica remained silent. Ethan laughed softly, though there was sadness behind it. A disagreement became an argument. The argument became distance. He folded the note slowly. Then work made it easy to avoid fixing it. Monica nodded. She understood. Ethan pulled out his phone almost instinctively. Then he stopped. The screen lit up with dozens of unread messages. Investors. Executives. Advisors. Problems waiting to be solved. For the first time in years, none of them felt urgent. His thumb moved past every notification until he found a different name. Emily Walker. He stared at it. The contact had remained untouched for nearly 3 years. Monica watched quietly. You still have time, she said. Ethan smiled faintly. The exact phrase his mother had used. For several seconds, he simply looked at the screen. Then he pressed the call button. The phone rang once. Twice. 3 times. He almost expected voicemail. Instead, a surprised voice answered. Ethan. His throat tightened immediately. Hi, Emily. Silence followed. Not uncomfortable silence. The kind that exists when 2 people suddenly realize how much time has passed. Ethan looked out toward the Chicago skyline. I know it is late, he said quietly, but I was wondering if you would like to have breakfast tomorrow. Another pause. Then came an answer he never expected. I would like that. Ethan closed his eyes briefly. A smile appeared. Across the table, Monica smiled too. Because in that moment, she realized the evening had never been about the box. It had never been about the letters. It had been about opening a door that Ethan still believed was closed forever. And for the first time in many years, that door was beginning to open. The restaurant was beginning to empty by the time Ethan Walker finally looked away from his phone. The conversation with his sister had lasted only a few minutes, yet it felt as though something inside him had shifted for the first time in years. The distance that once seemed impossible to cross no longer felt permanent. Across the table, Monica Brooks quietly gathered the letters and photographs, returning them to the wooden box with the same care she had shown all evening. Ethan watched her for a moment before speaking. I do not know how to thank you. Monica smiled gently. You do not have to. Ethan shook his head. That is not true. His voice carried a sincerity that had been absent when he first walked into the restaurant hours earlier. Tonight changed something. Monica rested her hands on the table. Then thank your mother. Ethan looked down at the box. For the first time, he realized the evening had never been about discovering hidden documents or solving an old mystery. It had been about being reminded of the person he wanted to become before success had consumed every available space in his life. Outside the windows, the rain clouds had disappeared completely. The city lights reflected against the dark sky, brighter than before. Ethan reached for his wallet. Monica immediately recognized what he intended to do. Please do not. Ethan paused. You have no idea what this means to me. Monica laughed softly. Actually, I think I do. Ethan smiled. Then let me help you. Monica shook her head. Your mother never helped people because she expected something back. Neither do I. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ethan remembered something. What happened after the hospital? Monica looked surprised. What do you mean? You mentioned classes. Scholarships. What happened? Monica smiled. Life happened. Ethan laughed quietly. That sounds like a complicated answer. It usually is. She explained how she had completed her education, while working multiple jobs. How opportunities appeared slowly. How setbacks came and went. Through it all, she never forgot the encouragement Eleanor Walker had given her. Ethan listened carefully. Every story reinforced the same lesson. Character mattered. Kindness mattered. Presence mattered. Eventually, Monica closed the lid of the wooden box. The sound felt symbolic. One chapter ending. Another beginning. Ethan stood from the booth. Monica did the same. Around them, employees were preparing for closing time. Chairs were being arranged. Tables were being reset. The evening was ending for everyone else too. Ethan extended his hand. Monica looked at it briefly before shaking it. "Thank you for keeping your promise," he said. Monica smiled. "I made it to someone very special." Ethan nodded. "She would have been proud of you." Monica's eyes softened. "I hope so." As they walked toward the front of the restaurant, Ethan stopped near the entrance and looked back one final time. The booth. The letters. The place where 10 years of distance had finally begun to heal. Then he turned toward Monica. "Tomorrow morning, I am having breakfast with my sister." Monica smiled. "I know." Ethan laughed. "And next week I am canceling 2 trips. That sounds important." "It is." He looked toward the city beyond the glass doors. "For the first time in a long time, I think I finally understand what my mother was trying to teach me." Monica nodded. "What is that?" Ethan smiled. Not the polished smile investors saw during interviews. Not the confident smile executives saw in boardrooms. A genuine smile. Success is not measured by how many people know your name. He glanced at the wooden box one last time. It is measured by how many people are glad you showed up. Monica smiled. Ethan stepped into the cool Chicago night. The city remained the same. The buildings were the same. The company waiting for him was the same. Yet he was not. He had entered the restaurant believing he needed another business dinner. He left carrying something far more valuable. Not money. Not influence. Not another achievement. A second chance. And sometimes, that is the greatest gift a person can receive.